Okay. So this might be a challenge because I didn't expect to have to present this way, but still, I don't really want to look at that. I want to look at this, but they're not in sync. There's a lot to get through, very little time. I would like to take questions, but I prefer to take them at the end if that's okay, or because of how much material there is to get through. So this is what we're going to go through. Quick platform update, software strategy, OS, security, manageability, middleware application development and database. And if I can do that in 50 minutes, well, we've done well. Right, platform update. Most of you will have seen this slide before. It's been slightly customized, but effectively this is what we have to sell. And so all new systems are going to be NS8s, NS4s, virtualized non-stops, the baby NS2 and the entry-level virtualized non-stop. The difference between the two virtualized and the VNS underneath is one is the high-end 2, 4 and 6 core variant, and the VNS is a bit like an NS4. It's a single or a dual core. And then out to the right, some of you will have these NS7s and NS3s. Those are no longer sold. There we go. This is why I'm having trouble. I need to make customers aware that add-ons for the NS3s and NS7s will end on the 31st of October 2022. So if you need specific items such as some of the CLIMs, some of the CPUs, to be able to take account of capacity plans in the future, you need to think about purchasing those before the 31st of October because we will not be able to guarantee supply after that date. Disks are slightly different things, but we're really looking at CPUs, memory, and some of the specific CLIMs that we use for those. A quick gander through the current stuff we've got for sale. So the NS8 has been around now for probably the best part of 16, 17 months. There isn't really that much difference in what we've done, but since L21.06, we've added a couple of new capabilities. So we can now go up to 16 CPUs per node. Before it was only 8 CPUs. And we can also do local InfiniBand clustering, which we call NSXCS these days. So that is relatively new capability to the high-end NS8s. I'm really getting in trouble with this clicker. Non-stop dynamic capacity is available, is starting to get increasing customer take-up. It's only available on the high end, so that's the NS7s, the NS8s, and the high end of virtualized non-stops. And effectively, it's a temporary bursting capability, so it allows you to burst 2-core CPUs. So if you're licensed as a 2-core system, you burst to a 4-core. If you license for a 4-core system, you burst to a 6-core. And the licenses last for 12 months from the time they are shipped. They're shipped electronically. It's just a variation of a core license. And you are able to use those for 30 times, 30 days. The minimum of usage is 1 day. If even you only use it for 5 minutes in a day, it's a day. But a license lasts for either 30 usage or 12 months. And then you can buy another one if you want to. It's generally speaking, it's not worth buying them all in advance because the license key starts the day it's shipped. So actually what you want to do is to wait until you've nearly expired them and buy the next one. And you can tell when it expires because the event measure system squawks all over the place to tell you that you're either out of your 12 months or you've only got a few days left. So there should be no issue in knowing that you've reached the end of that particular NSDC license. Still having trouble with this. NS4s, no difference here, but this is just to remind you, it's 2 or 4 CPU. There is only one memory size, and you can have up to 4 IP CLIMs and up to 4 storage CLIMs for an NS4. And what we're now doing is all the standard 6 bundled disks that you get, i.e. three mirrored pairs, are all SSDs. Virtualize non-stop, easy button. Who's actually heard about easy button before? Anyone in there? There must be some people. Okay, so this is this is not about having a one-button deployment of virtualized non-stop. That's a lovely goal to get to, but it's not actually realistic. But what this is about is simplifying both the deployment and also the ongoing maintenance experience for virtualized non-stop. And that's really what this program is all about. So what we've had of late, and the real enhancements came out in L21.06, are in 3 little areas. And this is actually quite a nice build slide. I didn't realize when I had it, but it's quite a nice build slide. But the first thing is that you need to know when you build a virtualized non-stop that you have the hardware resources which are suitable and available to be able to configure. So there is now a readiness analyzer that goes through and looks to see that is there, and it comes up with a report of where you've got gaps. So that saves you having to do that yourself. Actually, it might seem a bit trivial, but it's a really useful little enhancement to the deployment of virtualized non-stop. So yeah, it's looking for this stuff. The next thing is that when you want to create a virtualized non-stop, you have to create a whole load of things in VMs. So those will be your CPUs, those will be your CLIMs, those will be things, the IP and storage CLIMs. It'll be your non-stop consoles. It could even be your virtualized back box. And so what we've done here now is to make it much more simple to be able to use the orchestration tools to go out and deploy with some intelligence. So you just basically need to tell it what the state is of the VMs you need to create and whether they're up or down when they're finished. So that's also another nice little tool. So the next one is the real biggie. This is about rolling upgrades, and you can see what's going on here. And so this is a combination of the deployment tools, the orchestration, and also through the OSM console. It's about being able to do ostensibly VMware patching, because that's one of the things you're going to have to do. So each one of these compute nodes, with its hypervisor, may have to be patched. And what this is about is helping you orchestrate moving all the VMs that are on a compute node to a spare one. You do have to have a spare one available to do this, but it's about doing that and helping you orchestrate that and taking away some of the manual intensivity of having to coordinate all of those actions. So those are the 3 things that come out. It has taken virtualized non-stop quite a way forward, and I'm sure there'll be more things in the future that they want to add to this. But it certainly is a significant improvement in deployment and manageability. Some of you will have been in Mirko's presentation about our backup solution. The latest Backbox virtual tape controller, and in fact the virtual tape repository, is the release 4. And primarily there's a refresh in the actual Reliant hardware that goes in there. But the other thing that we've got is it's now built on Windows 2019 server. One of the things about the VTCs is you can now configure up to 128 terabytes of storage on the 2U server itself. You don't have to go off to a separate storage platform, so you can keep that all internal. And you can configure that as RAID 6, so you've got 2 parity stripes. So that's a really nice way of keeping your virtualized tape controller in a nice, dense, consolidated rack-mounted solution. I know that Mirko talked about Core Store. This is another really interesting addition. It's an optional license that we've now got for the VTC Release 4s. It's not applicable to Virtual Tape Repository. And what it brings into the solution is, with a single license, it brings in embedded deduplication. It brings encryption, and all that helps to give you faster replication across to another data center. So this is a really nice new feature. Without that, you're going to have to do several things. You're going to have to buy encryption licenses, possibly key managers, license some sort of deduplication software, license some sort of replication software. So it really is a nice new feature indeed. This is just a little bit of sort of eye chart on some of the features of Core Store. The other thing that Core Store gives you is it gives you the ability to make multiple copies of the data. So obviously there's a replication offsite, which is for disaster recovery, but also you can start to configure multiple virtual tape controllers in a resilient manner, and they can share copy pools. So that means within a data center, it's really easy for you to share those backups between VTCs amongst the non-stop hosts in that data center. The other thing that Core Store brings you is with the Core Store licensing, which is based on an amount of capacity, then you have the ability to choose if you want to configure to have that data held locally, or you can actually send it off into the cloud, and you can decide to tier stuff based on, for example, some sort of retention dates or whatever, that effectively extends your storage capacity from the physical capacity you've got in the data center. So you can create policies to decide what you want to do and when, and you can decide whether stuff is encrypted or unencrypted when you want to send that off to the various storage pools. So here's an example of Core Store in there with replication to a backup site, and because of deduplication, where you can take advantage of deduplicated data for successive backups, then that really speeds up the replication to the other site. This is a quick eye chart of the virtual tape product solutions. So at the top we've got a virtual tape repository, fixed disk capacity, supports just 2 non-stop servers in terms of a connection. The VTC Release 4, then you can have up to 6 non-stop hosts. You've got the ability to hold 128 terabytes of storage within the proprietor itself, but you can use fiber channel array and other disk connections that you want in there. You're not limited to that. And obviously you've got the cloud capability and the Core Store features as well. And then you also have virtualized backbox, which supports up to 3 non-stop servers. And remember, the physical and the virtual backboxes are not dedicated to whether they're virtual or physical themselves. So you can have virtualized using iSCSI to physical non-stops. Equally, you can have a physical VTC using iSCSI to a virtualized non-stop. So there's a lot of mix and match in there for what you want to be able to do. Right, now we come to the meaty bit. How are we doing for time? This is the development non-stop software strategy in 3 pillars. So the first thing we've got in there is a stable operating environment, and that's very much about supporting existing applications, making sure that we continue to protect the investment you've got in your applications with all the sorts of features and environments that we know and love. Then in the middle strategy, We want to look towards modern standards, the way that application development and IT is going. And that's looking at things like moving to more of a service, things like deployment tools and DevOps, which is the way that modern apps are being, and middleware is being controlled and deployed and managed. And then to the right-hand side, we're going to look at new solutions and things that help us bring applications to the platform more easily. And I'll talk about that a little bit further down. So what have we actually got in the operating system that's come out of late? One of the things we've got is we've moved the consoles, both the virtualized and the physical consoles, up to being Windows Server 2019 based. There is a lot more multi-factor authentication in our tools, such as the OSM event viewer, the certificate tool, the maintenance LAN for DNS, and the inventory tool. There's an enhancement to the disk sanitization, so it conforms to a new NIST level. And there's some guidelines on how to do sanitizations of SSDs. There's some extra algorithms being supported for SSH and SSL. And not only that, we've brought the ability of the Intel chip and the AS hardware accelerator to improve cryptography on the non-stop by using those. There's some extra, as usual, wildcard and other features in Safeguard, and obviously things like firmware updates for new bits of hardware. But this is the really big thing, and this is one of the things for the future and bringing future applications. Now, in my opinion, kernel level threading project is probably the most significant thing we've brought to the software environment since OSS. I think this is really going to be a very, very important piece of work. Some of you who are perhaps more Guardian based will go, so what? But actually we think this is going to be really important. So, I mean, it's bringing a new compliance for POSIX standards. It's bringing native kernel level support. And what that means is you're starting to take advantage of threading to be able to within scheduler, to be able to take advantage of the cores in a CPU, and not having to manually configure and control these things, which is the way other operating systems work. So I think that's really important. It's going to dramatically ease migration of applications from other platforms to non-stop. I mean, one of the things I'm thinking of in here, there's a number of customers who are ACI based 24, and the whole of UP has been a challenge for us because we haven't got kernel level threading. So there's an example of things that potentially could be enhanced by kernel level threads. The other thing is that the SPT and the PUT libraries we're using now, effectively they're mature, and so we need to go to something which is modern and supportable, and KLT is going to take us down there. And development believe that it's going to be very much the feature of how they will bring middleware and parallelism to the future. So look out for that one. This is a quick eye chart of our security portfolio. We have other partner products which are available to you, but these are the ones on our price book, and we're categorizing these in sort of 5 pillars: protect non-stop, protect applications, protect data, protect connection, and monitor and audit. And you can see there we've brought, particularly from Zypro and also from Fortec, a number of new tools to our price book in sort of the past 6 to 9 months. Just to come down and feature on those in a little bit more detail. So I know most of you will have been in the plenary that Steve Turchin gave. So Security 1, which is actually a series of modules you can take, but it goes right up to the context understanding artificial intelligence analysis engine. That's available. We've bought the Integrity Directive and XS1 FIM, so that's file integrity monitoring. For people who want to start to look at things like access control and also password vaulting and control, and bring non-stop into their corporate management environments, then the Interconnect for CyberArk and also SailPoint are tools that help you do that. And for customers who are in the card space, then PanFinder is the tool that very quickly allows you to identify PANs in the clear. There's also another bunch of tools that help you manage safeguard by more GUI control. The access control through object security is bringing extra control for OSS environments and OSS objects, controlling password quality through XPQ. The next one is about taking non-stop logs and putting into a net witness SIEM. And then when you're looking at creating access control and actually using deployment and governance, the integration into ServiceNow allows you to do that for non-stop users. Quick change now into manageability. So we're categorizing this into 4: serviceability, expert management, enhanced management, and performance analysis. And as you can see there, we've brought some new tools in from ETINet and also from ESQ fairly recently. So here's a bit more detail on those tools. For those of you who are using the HPE Operations Agent Bundle, fondly still known as OVNM, OVMPM, that had SNMP v3 agent, but not everyone has those. So this has now been broken out into a separate tool, and that allows you to have events from non-stop integrated into enterprise managers using SNMP v3 MIBs. CDEEP is a tool that allows you to do instant information and analysis and reporting on ATM and POS transaction. Currently, it's a base 24 classic only solution. I know that there is work going on to extend that to EPS. Non-stop Nova is a workload automation batch scheduler, parallel batch scheduler, which extends some of the capabilities that we have in a net batch environment and is an extremely robust and parallel tool. And then MQGate is around taking MQ events, which are typically unstructured type of event messages, and putting some tokenization around them so it's easier to search, report, and actually analyze on them. What we see in the future plans is, as always, there'll be non-stop console installers, software updates as we go through with new hardware and various other features. OVNM is going to move the event console to being part of OVNM as opposed to a desktop client. There'll be a new entry-level hardware management in terms of health monitoring product coming from ETINet called Non-Stop Sentinel. And then there's a lot of work going on to enhance the capability of Web Viewpoint Enterprise and also Local Analyst, Remote Analyst. Has anyone here used Local Analyst or Remote Analyst? So I'd highly recommend you look at this. It's a really good replacement for the performance bundle the host and the client performance bundle. And the client performance bundle is basically a very mature product now. It takes a lot of metrics either up into the cloud or locally to a Windows server, and it pre-cans a whole load of performance and health reporting. You can actually use the data yourself to do some additional reporting, and it takes away the need to be such a measure expert. So it's a really good tool, and if you're bringing new people to your non-stop, I think that's the sort of thing which it is really worthwhile considering adding to the portfolio. Middleware. So many of you will have seen this chart before. It hasn't really changed that much. The thing I'd say about this in terms of the capabilities is that nearly everything on there except the center box, the Java-based open source frameworks, the products are all available through HPE on the non-stop price book. So it's a really quite a nice capability now in terms of the middleware. And the highlighted boxes are some of the things either new or enhanced that we've got in the recent past. What we're really about with the middleware is to take all the capabilities that we have for availability and scalability, bring those to standard tool sets, and avoid application developers having to learn how to do specialist code to be able to take advantage of them. And all those bullet points, that really distills down to what it's all about for us. So, anyone heard of API Gateway? I know at least 2 people in this room who have. Yeah, okay, right. So I actually think API Gateway is going to be a really important product for HPE. We've already got it out there that's being able to take JSON messages, effectively translate them, and then invoke some services and make replies back. But what we've been bringing recently, or what we're about to bring, in terms of the extra capability, is to look at Kafka queues and be able to take stuff off Kafka queues, translate them, invoke a service, get a reply, and translate that and put it back on the Kafka queue. We'll also be able to put tokens in there, and tokens are about stuff that actually don't mean anything to the application, but are really there for authentication and authorization. So that's another feature we're getting there. Service aggregation is about the fact you might have a request coming in, but you're going to invoke more than one application, and you want orchestration of that, and then the orchestration of the replies. So it's going to be able to do that. And the final thing is around Grafana, and this is about really performance monitoring charts, graphs and stuff like that, so you can monitor this environment without having to understand measure. So that's more about the manageability angle of it. So I think this is, API Gateway is going to be a really big product, certainly for us internally, and something that's available to customers. But we also have on the price book lightweight server, lightweight client, which is a new wave product, taking REST messages, and you can either use that to invoke a service on non-stop, or the other way around, non-stop to invoke a service elsewhere. And I'd point you to the talk which is going on after me at 12 o'clock, where there'll be more details on these products provided by New Wave. So what have we got coming in the future? How am I doing? 10 minutes. Okay. A lot of enhancements to existing products, primarily. HTTP server is really the replacement product for ITP web server, and we're doing a lot of things there in terms of first of all tools to be able to migrate stuff from ITP web server into it. We're doing enhancements to the manageability so that it can be upgraded online, which is obviously a core strength of what we've wanted to do in the past. And a bit like we talked about SSL and SSH, bringing the AAS intrinsics in terms of hardware cryptography for some of the work that goes on there. For non-stop server for Java, we're bringing Java native access, which is very much similar to the Java, the JNI that we've got. It's easier to use, but just not quite so performant. And we will be tracking non-stop server for Java enhancements, and product management is saying that what it looks like is probably NSJ 17 will be the next one for us. Then TSMP, we're almost doubling the server classes, so there's a big capacity enhancement going on there, and some enhancements in load balancing after a node fails. DevOps, there's a talk today, this afternoon, about NSGit, and I think that's in one of my slides further on. But one of the things we're looking at in the middleware environment is how do we integrate those? How do we deploy? We're using things like Python scripts and stuff like that, so that you can actually use a DevOps environment to deploy non-stop middleware. And we'll also be doing version upgrades to some of the existing products, the JBoss Wildfly, an ASJ, a non-stop application server for Java, the MQ, NSMQ, and also our Tomcat environment. I mentioned on the previous slide about NSGit. I'd thoroughly encourage you to go and listen to the Next Bridge talk. So, you know, there's so many customers now who are saying we need to get into DevOps. And one of the things that NSGit brings you, it understands non-stop. It understands nscribe files. It understands non-stop objects, which standard Git doesn't. So it allows you to integrate that. It allows you to detect changes, to make commitments of changes into your releases. It allows you to do the release control, so you know the origins of stuff. So it's a really important product, I think, to bring non-stop into DevOps for people who use Git, GitHub, various other versions of Git. What are we going to do in the future? So we're currently on C++ 11, Kevin, I believe. Yeah, it's 11. So we're looking at bringing C++ 17. We're always upgrading NSDE. I think 11's just come out. So obviously 12's going to be the next one. We've looked at cross-compilers. A survey came out. So cross-compilers are currently on Windows. We're asking customers, do you need cross-compilers to run on another platform? And primarily, I'm suspecting that's going to be Linux. We're not getting much feedback from customers, so unless you're demanding it, we're not going to do it. And equally, we're looking at new languages. So we've taken a look at bringing things like Go to non-stop, but it's going to be driven by customer demand. And so if that's something that you need in your environment, please flag that up, because that support helps us with the development proposal to go forward with them. I told you this would be a blast through, and it is really quick. So let's talk about database. I'm not going to talk about nscribe. I'm not going to talk about SQLMP. I want to talk about SQLMX. So I think that a picture paints 1,000 words. And if you have a highly mission-critical, available, scalable database need for a mission-critical environment, look what happens in most of the other environments. Look at the amount of infrastructure and things you end up having to manage to get availability and scalability, replication between things. You know, yes, you might get database services, so it's cloud-like, but we have that now in SQLMX. And the ease of management and out of the box is so much better. And the issue with the complications of the right-hand side is the cost of ownership for that environment is massive, and trying to bring really guaranteed service level availability is really difficult. So we believe, if that's your need, mission critical database, maybe consolidation of databases, non-stop SQL MX really has a place to play in your environment. What have we done recently? Previously we've never had native blobs, clobs and enclobs data types. It's all been done off through a JDBC connection in SQL MX 3.8. So these are actual real native data types, and therefore it's much easier for us to manage. You can do queries on them. All the stuff that you would do with other data types you can do within SQL MX and manage those. And more importantly, we've enhanced our PL MX compatibility layer for PL SQL. PL SQL is an extension to the SQL language. It's used really heavily by customers and DBAs because Oracle have been pushing it for so long. And what we have in our compatibility layer is the ability to do many of the PL SQL commands and use them against SQL MX, including now the blobs and clob data types, and that makes portability from another database to non-stop so much easier. We also have some enhancements to managing our database through SQL Express, so role-based access control, multi-factor authentication, sending some of the events or sending the events off into a seam, and actually doing really good auditing of changes within the database environment. And that's very much a sort of a part of today's environment, securing and monitoring. And finally, and I haven't said that, SQL Express is available through HPE. Finally, I want to just talk very quickly about Strim. So Strim is a streaming product that allows you to take data and stream it and inject it into another database, and also do in-memory analytics. Non-stop can be both a source and a target, but there are other targets, and they're not just necessarily relational database environments. There's big data, Hadoop, stuff like that, other file and message queues. And the thing about Strim is that the licensing is really quite attractive in the way it works, because effectively you're only paying for the source irrespective of the targets in there, and there's just one license fee. So it can work out really well if you've got the need to not only stream data to another environment, but also to do some real-time analytics. Okay, so I think we've just about done it ahead of time. I'll leave that up there for people who want to know where to get the manuals and any of the education. My caveat here is, HPE IT do move our URLs with frequent abandon, so that might be out of date next week, but there we go. Got a couple of minutes left. Any questions?
How are you getting on with dollar system imaging?
We'll talk about that outside.
Okay.
That sounded interesting.
Okay, thank you very much. What's the next sessions? Do you know which room they are? New Wave is in here. New Wave is in here.
And CSP are presenting
in Peeps. Yep, CSP security in Peeps, and New Wave light server in here. Rob isn't here, is he, John?
No,
Okay. Can we go in the library at lunchtime and we'll have a chat? And it's not. We're not. It's just. It's not for an open forum at the moment. Yeah, but Graham and I will have a chat to you. Yeah.
Kernel level threading, how much of an impact does that